You ever have that feeling, that sense that you're just drifting in your spiritual life? Like the passion you once had is kind of cooled off? Well, today we're going to dig into a centuries-old guide that sees this not as just a feeling, but as a full-on war. Let's take a look at this Puritan battle plan for the soul. Man, that quote just hits a nerve, doesn't it? It's from a letter written way back in 1755, but it feels so modern. This idea of losing something precious, of becoming a sad stranger to a joy that once felt like home, that's a deeply human, deeply relatable feeling. And that's really the first big takeaway here. This feeling, it's not some kind of bug that's unique to our crazy, distracted 21st century lives. Nope. It's a timeless feature of the human condition. It's a struggle people have been wrestling with for centuries. But here's the thing. These thinkers didn't just wallow in the problem. They actually mapped out the entire battlefield. Guys like the theologian John Owen, they gave this incredibly profound diagnosis of what's going on inside. And then pastors like Pike and Hayward, who wrote that letter, they provided a really practical battle plan for the road to recovery. So what exactly is the enemy in this war? According to them, it's not just, bad habits or things tempting us from the outside. No, the fight is much, much deeper than that. And the enemy, well, the enemy is a lot closer than we think. The theologian John Owen, he gave it a name: indwelling sin. And the distinction he makes here is absolutely critical. He's not just talking about the individual wrong things we do, the isolated actions. He's talking about the very principle of sin, this powerful corrupting force that's basically taken up residence inside our souls. And to make this easier to grasp, Owen uses these really powerful metaphors. The first one he uses is the old man. Think of this as our original fallen nature. It's like a complete personality, if you will, that stands in total direct opposition to the new person we become in faith. His second metaphor is just as vivid: the body of sin. And this one really illustrates that sin isn't just some disorganized mess. It's a fully formed system, like an army, with its own members, its specific lusts, all organized and ready to wage war at a moment's notice. And this right here, this is the battlefield. It's this constant internal tug of war between two kings fighting for the same territory, your soul. You've got the flesh on one side, the spirit on the other, and they are in direct opposition in what they want, where they're going, and what their ultimate end is. I mean, the stakes just could not be higher. So if that's the diagnosis, what's the prescription? Owen has a specific term for it: mortification. It comes from the Latin for to make dead. It's the active, daily, constant duty of weakening and, yes, killing that indwelling principle of sin. But, and this is a huge but, Owen is crystal clear about what mortification isn't. It's not about punishing yourself. It's not just gritting your teeth and trying harder on your own. True mortification is empowered by the spirits. It goes after the root of sin, not just the outward actions, and it's a lifelong marathon, not some short sprint you run because you feel guilty. This verse from Romans is the absolute key for Owen. And notice the structure, it's so important. You do the mortifying, but you do it through the Spirit. We have the responsibility, right? But the Spirit provides the power. It's a divine partnership. So how does the Spirit actually do this? Well, Owen lays out this multifaceted attack plan. The Spirit plants an opposite principle, holiness, that starts to grow stronger. He opens up a supply line of grace. He takes the victory of the cross and applies it directly to our personal struggle. And he basically recalibrates our desires, showing us what sin really is and how beautiful holiness is. And this is probably the most profound part of the whole thing. The power to put our sin to death flows directly from Christ's death. His crucifixion becomes the source for our own. It's by faith that we're conformed to his death, so that sin can finally die in us. Okay. So that's the deep, powerful theology behind the battle. But what does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? For that, let's go back to that 1755 letter from Pike and Hayward for a super practical battle plan that takes us from diagnosis to daily action. So they laid out these 4 clear, actionable steps for anyone who's feeling that spiritual drift. It starts with some honest self-examination, then moves to humility and prayer, then to pleading with God based on his promises, and finally to this daily watchfulness over our souls. All right, step 1 is all about getting specific. You have to ask, where has the enemy gained a foothold? They push us to ask some really hard questions. Has success, either in my spiritual life or my regular life, made me proud? Have I just gotten careless? Has my love for the world started to cool my love for God? Have I been neglecting those simple foundational duties? And their advice is just so practical, especially on this point. They basically argue that the battle for the entire day is often won or lost first thing in the morning. Before the world and all its craziness rushes in, they say you have to earnestly seek God's presence and get your spiritual frame right first. And this brings us right back around to that crucial point from Owen. This is not a quick fix. There is no simple three-step program for a perfect life. This is the hard work of lifetime. The real key here is just persistence. And Owen, man, he does not mince words. He uses this incredibly stark metaphor to drive the point home. He warns that if you start a fight with sin and then just walk away, it's actually more dangerous than never starting at all. Why? Because a wounded sin becomes even more vicious. The fight has to be to the death. It has to be pursued relentlessly. So, in the end, this Puritan guide leaves us with both a really sobering reality and a powerful hope. The war is real, absolutely, and the enemy is inside us. But the power for victory comes from God. So the question it leaves us with isn't if the war can be won, but on what front, on what piece of ground will you choose to engage in that battle today?